Hello and welcome to a review over the use of the dative in Latin. This is for my Latin 1 class and especially for Matt Smith. These are cases. When we talk about dative, we also have nominative, we have accusative, we have ablative so far as well. Nominatives are going to be our subjects for the most part. Our accusatives for the most part are direct objects, and objects of a preposition for our ablatives, although they will have other uses later on. That's pretty much what we're using so far. For our datives, they're going to be our indirect objects. Our dative endings, our singular endings for the first declension is AE, singular first declension. First declension plural is IS. So if I have a word from the first declension that ends in AE, it is possibly a dative. If I have a declension that ends in IS, if I have a word that is first declension that ends in IS, it is also possibly a dative. It doesn't make it dative, but it puts it in the category of possibility. Second declension endings for the dative are O. For the plural, it's IS, and then third declension is I and ibis. Now, the two uses that we've had with the indirect object with the dative is, indirect object and special verbs are the two ways that we've used the dative case in this chapter. Indirect object is the object that receives part of the action through the direct object. Typically, we have a few types of verbs. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Types of verbs that deal with this. Verbs of saying, verbs of showing, verbs of giving, verbs of entrusting. These are the kind of verbs that typically take indirect objects. In English, if I give a gift to you, this would be nominative because that's my subject. This would be my verb. The gift would be in the accusative case because it is our direct object, and you would be in the dative case because it is our indirect object. So we would have ego, that makes I nominative. We're going to put the verb at the end. So I give, so we'd have do. A gift, we would have in the accusative case because it is the direct object, and then you would be in the dative case. So then I give you a gift. That's how that works out. We also have special verbs. The ones that we dealt with in this chapter are credit and forward. Both of these verbs, when you trust someone or you support someone, you're going to do it in the dative case. I don't trust a dog and put it in the accusative. I don't do that. Whenever I trust when I trust the dog, I want to trust it in the dative. That's third declension dative ending. If I move back up here, we have a third declension word. There's that I that we're looking for. And that's why the I is here. Now, same thing with forward. If I support someone, let's say I support my father, I don't support him in the accusative. He's not. That's just not what we do with these two words. We're going to use the dative instead. So this sentence right here, he trusts the dog. This sentence right here, he supports the father, his father. Now you can make those plural, obviously, since they're third declension, by adding ibis. That's just like this guy right here. So these two sentences would be, he trusts the dogs, and he trusts the father. This is just kind of an overview of what you should know whenever we're finished with this short lesson. Okay, this is what brought this about. On your test that you took, you had this section, and most of you, including Elizabeth Trammell, did not do very well picking out these words, whether or not they had a dative or whether or not they had an accusative that was coming. If I look at these verbs here, some of them should stick out to me. Here's all my verbs. And this is how easy this should have gone for you guys. We talked about followed and credit as being verbs that take the dative and not the accusative. So guess what? Followed takes the dative. Credit is going to take the dative. Followed right here is going to take the dative. Followed right here, guess what? It's going to take the dative. And credit right here, guess what? Going to take the dative. Now all of these endings, the IS, the IBIS, the O, the I, that's third declension, that's why that I is dative, and the AE are all dative endings. So that's the way that my answer should have gone. The rest of them I'm going to read to make sure I don't have an indirect object, but I know those verbs right there take the dative. I have turba, that's my subject. I have salutat, which is my verb. I don't have a direct object, so I'm going to get one. Agricolon, AM, that's accusative, direct object. Looking at salutant right here, I have a subject. Over here, do I need a verb? What do I need here? Well, this is third declension, so this could be confusing if you're only looking at endings and you see that I, you say, well, coach, that could be, this right here could be, it could be nominative and plural. No, it can't be nominative and plural because it's third declension. That letter I makes it dative. I then need an accusative. That EM makes it accusative, and that accusative goes right here for the direct object. When I get the salutat again, I have thief, greets, the candidate. Well, what kind of candidate? Do I need an accusative? Or do I need a dative? Well, I need an accusative. Here, senator salutat. Once again, senator is greeting someone. Do you greet people in the dative or the accusative? Well, it's not one of those followed or credit, so guess what? I'm going to go with the accusative ending. Same thing here. The young man greets someone in the accusative. This entire section is simply based on the question, do I know that followed and credit take dative? That's it. That's this whole section. Do I know that followed and credit take the dative? This section right here on our test should have been a lot easier than what you guys made it. Okay, when do I get indirect objects? Well, if I get verbs of saying, like Deacon, he says something to someone. If I get verbs of showing, here, actually I don't have to do it, they already have them over here for me. Verbs of showing or demonstrate something. I show something to somebody else. Verbs of giving, if I give something to someone else. If I have verbs of trusting, I entrust something to someone else. Those are all cases of indirect objects. We're going to have indirect objects, or at least implied indirect objects, with those types of verbs most of the time. If I say, for example, in this first one right here, the emperor, that's going to be nominative, is it? Yep. Explain, that's going to be my verb. The situation, what is he explaining? Situation, that's my accusative. And then over here I have to the senators. He is explaining it to someone, that makes it dative. This then is our subject, this is our direct object, this is our indirect object. And this, of course, is our verb. Let's look at this one. We have the emperor. That's the person doing the action. Is it nominative? Yep. Showed is my verb right here. Showed the senators. That's who we're showing it to. So I'm going to I'm going to squiggly line that. What are we showing them? The problem. We're showing them the problem, so we're good. That's accusative. That's what we're showing. Who are we showing it to? That's going to be our indirect object. Who or what we are showing it to is going to be our indirect object in the dative. That's why we have ibis there. Same thing here. Senators are doing the action. Gave is the verb. To whom did they give it to? Emperor. So emperor needs to be in the dative. That's right. Dative I, third declension. And then what are you giving? You're giving advice, which needs to be in. Oh, yeah, giving advice, which needs to be in the accusative form. Is it? Yep, we're good. So these right here, these sentences are doing the same thing. You have someone doing something. Senators entrusting. You have someone doing something, entrusting the matter, and to someone else, or for someone else. The senators entrust the matter to the emperor. Whoever they're giving, entrusting, showing, or saying something to is going to be dative. Let's look at some of the sentences that your book has. These are the sample sentences from stage 11, if you want to look at them. We have the first one. Here's a verb of saying. It's saying something, right? In this case, they're shouting it, but it's at least a verb of speaking. So the farmers are going to be the subject or the dative. Let's see which one it is. Here's how I determine it. This could be dative. It could be nominative. If I can exclude nominative if the verb is singular. I come over here, the verb is not singular. It's not singular. So what do you do, coach? This could be they shout to the farmer, or this could be the farmers are shouting. This is where I have to use context. If I say they shout to the farmers, I need to go ahead and read through. It's not going to be that, by the way, but I have to read the rest of it to determine whether or not it's dative. So the farmers, I know, is going to be the subject. How do I know that? I'm guessing at this point. I'll change it later if I need to. The farmers shout. We is the subject. We have my verb. And then we have the best candidate. We have accusatives here. They're going to be, we have an accusative with an adjective. It's going to be our direct object. We have a nominative. It's going to be a subject. And then we have a verb that is first person in plural. Again, we have a nominative here. Our nominative, which is candidate. Our candidate. We have a linking verb, is. And we have a complement, in this case a predicate, noun. Our candidate is Lucius. Now this O right here is what's going to catch us. This is our dative. Why are we using the dative here? Let's find out. Subject is we. Oh. You see me do that in class, so no big deal. The subject is we. The verb is fawemus. That comes from the verb fawet. I wonder why we're going to use the dative here. Because fawet takes a dative. That's that first section that we looked at on our test. So we favor, or we support Lucius. It's really not that difficult. You see fawet or you see credit, you're going to be using the dative case. Let's look at our next one here. In the first sentence, again, we have a verb of saying. So that says that, well, we could have an indirect object. Let's see if we do. This right here is nominative or accusative plural. I'm guessing that it's probably going to be nominative. The merchants respond. That's the same verb. They're speaking. Now I've got this guy right here, agricolis, with an IS. I'm guessing that since my dative endings are AEIS, O and IS, or I and ibis, I'm guessing that this IS could possibly be a dative. I have a verb of saying. It could possibly be an indirect object. So I have the merchants respond, and then to the farmers. To the farmers. the only dative that we have? Nope. Look here. Follow it. I'd be looking for a dative there too. There it is. So I have a verb of saying here that uses the indirect object. The merchants respond to the farmers. And actually what they're saying, the whole quotation, is the direct object. The merchants say this thing, this whole thing, to the farmers. This one right here, again, we have a verb. We have a verb that says something, shouting. So we're looking for a possibility of a dative. There's an O ending, but it has a preposition with it. So we have a prepositional phrase. Pistoris, again, we're going to have Baker shouting in the form. So they're not shouting to anyone here. At least it doesn't tell us who they're shouting to. Do I have any dative possibilities in this one? Nope. Do I have any dative possibilities in the next one? Nope. But guess what? Here's that credit word. It takes the dative. There's that dative ending that we're looking for. So we trust the baker. So hopefully this helps you guys out when you guys are trying to determine whether or not something is dative. We have indirect objects, and we saw that with verbs of giving. So if he gives a gift to someone, let's say father, that's a nominative. Gives a gift, that's accusative, that's what he's giving. To me, that's the dative. And then the verb is dot. This is our dative, that's indirect objects. We have verbs of saying. So if I use quotation marks here, this is whatever is in these quotation marks is what I am saying. So if I said to the girl, so I to the girl, and then here's my verb of saying. Oh, deco. I said, whatever I say here, Solway, hello. I say, hello. I say to the girl. Again, to the girl, that's our indirect object. We can also do the same thing with verbs of entrusting, and we can do, excuse me, I'm trying to extend my page here. We can do the same thing with verbs of entrusting as well. Showing, we can also show something to someone. Those are our indirect object. Those are our indirect object words. We also have fawit, and we have credit. And if you want to put these under verbs of trusting, you can. But these are going to take the dative instead of the accusative case. So if I trust you, you are going to be in the dative. Credo is the verb that's being used. That's really all there is to it. Dative case is going to be used as an indirect object, or it's going to be used with special verbs like credit and like fawit. Now hopefully Stella understands all of this, and we can do a little bit better on our next test.